Don't set eyes on that poor thing, Michael. You need a woman of our social standing, Eleanor Harrison shouted to her son, pointing to the new maid. None of the previous 17 maids had lasted more than a week in that Beverly Hills mansion. Eleanor Harrison woke up every morning at 6 in her 2,000-square-foot master suite on the 3rd floor of her Beverly Hills mansion. At 68, she had grey hair always pulled back in a perfect bun and wore only designer clothes, even when staying at home. "Margaret!" she shouted from the top of the marble staircase, her voice echoing through the 10-room mansion. "Where's my Earl Grey tea? It's already 6:15. Margaret, the housekeeper for 15 years, ran with the silver tray in her hands, trembling. "Sorry, Mrs. Harrison, the new maid hasn't arrived yet, and I had to prepare everything myself." "New maid?" Eleanor strode down the stairs, her heels clicking on the marble. "This is the 18th. If she's another incompetent like the others, she won't last 2 days. Eleanor sat at the mahogany dining room table, where she had been drinking coffee alone since her husband died 5 years ago. She looked out the window and saw the black Rolls-Royce arriving. "My son is coming home from business. I hope he doesn't bring up another one of those ridiculous treating employees like family ideas." Michael Harrison got out of the car with a smile on his face. At 38, he had messy brown hair and preferred jeans and T-shirts to expensive suits. His blue eyes shone with a genuine kindness that contrasted completely with his mother's coldness. "Good morning, Margaret," he greeted, hugging the housekeeper. "How are you?" "Well, mister." "Michael, your mother is waiting for you at breakfast." Michael sighed. He knew that every time he returned from a trip, Eleanor had fired someone else. "Mom," he said, kissing her cheek. "How was your week?" "Terrible. I had to fire 2 more maids. One broke my Ming vase, and the other had the audacity to suggest a different menu." Michael poured himself some coffee, avoiding an argument. He knew his mother's temper. "Margaret told me she hired a new one, Sophia Martinez. She comes from a different agency. I hope at least this one knows how to clean properly." That's when the doorbell rang. Margaret went to answer it and returned accompanied by a woman who made Michael choke on his coffee. Sophia Martinez was 32 years old, with dark brown hair that shone in the morning sun and almond-shaped eyes that conveyed a mix of determination and vulnerability. She wore a simple but elegant dress and walked with an erect posture that conveyed dignity even in difficult circumstances. "Good morning, Mrs. Harrison," Sophia said in a firm voice with a slight accent. "I'm Sophia Martinez." Michael was mesmerized. He had never seen a woman so beautiful and yet so real. There was none of the artificiality of the high society women his mother always tried to instill in him. "Finally," Eleanor grumbled, looking Sophia up and down with contempt. "You know we have very high standards here." "Yes, ma'am, I'm ready." Michael stood up, extending his hand. "I'm Michael, her son. Welcome." When their hands touched, Sophia felt a shiver. Their eyes met for a second. Eleanor realized it immediately. She slammed her fist on the table. "Michael, go to your office. I have to brief the new employee on her duties." As soon as Michael left, Eleanor approached Sophia, speaking softly but with venom in her voice. "Listen well, young lady. I don't know where you came from, but here you are, just a maid. Don't mess with my son. He needs a woman of our class, not one like you." Sophia clenched her fists, but kept her head held high. "I understand, Mum. I'm just here to work." "Great. Your duties are clean all 16 bathrooms in the house, wax the 3 marble floors, wash and iron all the clothes, prepare and serve meals. Any mistake and you're out." "Got it." "Perfectly, Mrs. Harrison." Sophia knew she was taking an impossible job, but she desperately needed the money. After losing everything, this job was her only chance to start over. Michael watched from his second-floor office out the window. His heart raced every time he saw Sophia crossing the garden. There was something special about her, something he'd never felt for any of the women his mother approved of. For the next 3 days, Michael tried to focus on business, But he couldn't get Sophia out of his head. Every morning he went down to breakfast, just hoping to see her. "Good morning, Sophia," he said on Wednesday, finding her arranging the flowers in the front hall. "Good morning, Mr. Michael," she replied, without looking up from the white lilies. Michael stood there, admiring how delicately she moved her hands, as if each flower were a work of art. The morning sun streamed in through the window and illuminated her face, making her eyes sparkle. "The flowers look beautiful," he said, stepping closer. Sophia smiled shyly. It was the first time anyone in that house had complimented her on anything. "Thank you, Mr. Michael. I've always liked flowers. You have a knack for it. You seem to have been born for it." That's when Eleanor came down the stairs. Her heels clicked on the marble, like a military march. She stopped on the bottom step, watching the scene with narrowed eyes. "Michael!" she yelled, making them both back away quickly. "What are you doing standing there?" "I was just admiring the flowers, Mom." Eleanor descended the rest of the stairs slowly, like a predator approaching its prey. Her eyes flicked from Michael to Sophia, analyzing every detail of the situation. "Sophia," she said in a cold voice, "go clean the bathrooms on the 3rd floor now." Sophia lowered her head and quickly left, but not before exchanging one last look with Michael. In that second, he saw fear and sadness in her eyes. Eleanor waited until Sophia was out of sight. Then she turned to her son, her face red with anger. "What do you think you're doing?" "What are you talking about, Mum?" "Don't make a fool of me, Michael. I've seen the way you look at her. It's been 4 days in a row that you've been making excuses to stay here in the morning." Michael felt his face heat up. He hadn't realized he was being so obvious. She's just an employee, Mom." "Exactly." Eleanor slammed her fist on the coffee table, making the crystal vase tremble. "And you're a Harrison. You have responsibilities." She approached her son, pointing her index finger at his chest. "Don't set your eyes on that poor woman. You need a woman from our social class, a woman who understands our world. Mom, you don't even know her." "I know enough," Eleanor shouted so loudly that her voice echoed throughout the entire mansion. "She's a maid, an immigrant. Do you think you'll introduce her at our dinners, at the club, to the Vanderbilts?" Michael tried to speak, but Eleanor didn't stop. "Have you forgotten who you are? Have you forgotten that our family built an empire? That you're going to inherit Harrison Industries?" On the 3rd floor, Sophia was cleaning the master bathroom when she heard the screams. Eleanor's every word was like a knife to the chest. She stopped scrubbing the toilet and sat on the cold marble floor, her hands shaking. "Poor thing," she whispered to herself, tears starting to stream down her face. She knew Eleanor was right. What difference could it make? She was just a maid, with no money, no important family, nothing to offer a man like Michael. Downstairs, Eleanor continued, "You're going to marry Amanda Whitmore. Her family has tradition, money, class, not a cleaning lady. Amanda is cold as ice, Mom. I don't love her." "Love?" Eleanor gave a bitter laugh. "Love doesn't pay the bills, Michael. Love doesn't keep our name respected in society." Michael ran his hand through his hair in frustration. "What if I want to be happy? You'll be happy when you understand your obligations." Eleanor grabbed her son's arm. "Promise me you won't talk to her anymore. Promise me." Michael glanced up the stairs, imagining Sophia up there, probably listening. His heart ached at the thought of hurting her. "Mother, promise!" Eleanor screamed, her nails digging into his arm. I promise," he said quietly, his shoulders slumped in defeat. Eleanor smiled victoriously. She released her son's arm and smoothed his hair. "Great, now go get ready. We're having lunch at the club with the Whitmores. Amanda's looking forward to seeing you." Michael climbed the stairs slowly, each step heavy as lead. As he passed the 3rd floor, he heard a soft sob coming from the bathroom. He stopped in the doorway, his heart breaking. "Sophia," he called softly. The hiccuping stopped instantly. "Is everything okay there?" "Yes, Mr. Michael," came the shaky reply. Just finishing up here." Michael leaned his forehead against the cold door. He wanted to go in. He wanted to hug her. He wanted to tell her Eleanor was wrong. But his mother's words echoed in his head. "Okay, take your time." He walked away from the door, but before going to his room, he whispered so low he didn't even know if she could hear. "I'm sorry." Inside the bathroom, Sophia heard it, and her heart broke a little more. After Michael ripped her promise from her, Eleanor transformed into a true beast. In the following days, she woke up with a single purpose: to make Sophia's life hell. "Up Sophia!" she would shout at 5 in the morning, banging on the door of the small back room where the maid slept. "Get up! You have a lot of work to do today." Sophia opened her eyes, swollen from crying. She had slept only 3 hours after finishing cleaning the entire house in the early hours of the morning. "I'll be right there, Mrs. Harrison," he replied in a tired voice. In the kitchen, Eleanor was waiting for her with a huge list in her hand. "Today you're going to clean all the chandeliers in the house. There are 22 of them. Then you're going to wash the outside windows, all 56 of them. And you still have to cook dinner for 12 people. The Vanderbilts are coming today." Sophia looked at the list, mentally calculating. It was impossible to do all of this alone in one day. "Mrs. Harrison, I might need some help with—" "Help?" Eleanor laughed cruelly. "In Mexico? Aren't you used to working properly?" Sophia felt her face burn with shame. She had been born in Los Angeles, an American like everyone else there. "I was born here, Mom." "It doesn't matter. People like you are all the same. Lazy." Margaret, the housekeeper, watched silently, feeling sorry for Sophia. But she couldn't intervene without losing her job. Michael appeared in the kitchen at that moment, suitcase in hand. "Good morning," he said, avoiding looking directly at Sophia. "Oh dear," Eleanor's tone completely changed, becoming sweet as honey. "Are you leaving already?" "Yes, New York. Important meetings. I won't be back until next week." He took an apple from the fruit bowl, and when Eleanor wasn't looking, he whispered to Sophia, "I'm sorry for everything." Sophia just nodded, without looking up. As soon as Michael left, Eleanor turned back into a monster. "Oh, you heard me right," he growled through gritted teeth. "A week without my son here to protect you. Let's see if you can handle it." And all hell truly broke loose. On the first day, Eleanor woke Sophia at 4 in the morning. "Get up! There are leaves in the pool." Sophia climbed down silently, still in her nightgown, and began to sweep the leaves from the pool with a net. The icy water splashed against her bare legs, and she shivered in the early morning air. Eleanor appeared at the second-story window, watching with a wicked smile. "Faster! I have visitors arriving at 8. On the second day, Eleanor purposely spilled grape juice on the Persian rug in the main room. "How careless of me," he said with false innocence. "Sophia, clean that up, and be careful not to ruin the carpet. It costs more than you'll earn in 10 years. Sophia spent hours on her knees, scrubbing at the purple stain, her hands red from rubbing. On the third day, things got even worse. Eleanor invited her friends over for afternoon tea and made a point of humiliating Sophia in front of them all. "Sophia, serve the tea," he ordered when the 5 high society ladies were seated in the room. Sophia walked in with the silver tray, her hands shaking with nervousness. "Be careful not to drop it," Eleanor said loudly, for everyone to hear. "These people don't have the manners we do." One of the ladies, Mrs. Patterson, looked Sophia up and down. "Eleanor, dear, where did you find this one?" "At a cheap agency. You know how hard it is to find competent maids these days." Eleanor took the cup Sophia had poured and made a theatrical face. "This tea is cold. You can't even make tea properly." Sophia felt tears burning her eyes, but she swallowed them back. "Sorry, Mom. I'll make another one." "No! Just stand there so everyone can see the kind of maid I have to put up with." The 5 women laughed like hyenas. Sophia stood there, still as a statue, as they made cruel comments about the incompetence of immigrants, even though they knew she was American. On the 4th day, Eleanor woke her up screaming, "You broke my china vase." Sophia ran into the living room, still half asleep. On the floor was a broken vase. "I didn't break anything, Mom. I was sleeping. Are you calling me a liar?" Eleanor leaned so close that Sophia could feel her breath. "You're going to pay for this. It's $3,000. I'm taking it out of your paycheck." Sophia knew Eleanor had broken the vase on purpose. $3,000 was 4 months' salary, but she couldn't prove anything. On the 5th day, Eleanor found the most painful spot. "And Sophia," she said over lunch, "tell me something. Do you have family in Mexico?" "My family is from right here, Mom." "Liar. People like you always lie about their origins." Eleanor rose from the table, her eyes shining with malice. "I bet you swam across the river, didn't you? Like all of your kind." Sophia clenched her fists so tightly that her nails dug into her palms. "Please don't talk like that." "I speak as I please in my own house. You're just a maid, a nobody." Eleanor purposely threw the plate of food on the floor. "Clean it up." Sophia knelt and began picking up the porcelain shards, tears finally falling freely. One of the shards cut her finger, and a drop of blood dripped onto the marble floor. "Be careful not to get your dirty blood on my floor," Eleanor said coldly. That night, Sophia locked herself in the small bathroom in the back room and cried until she couldn't cry anymore. She looked at herself in the mirror. Too thin, her eyes swollen, her hands bruised. "Why do I put up with this?" he whispered to his reflection. But she knew the answer. She had no money, no references, no options. She needed that job, no matter how humiliating it was. On the 6th day, Eleanor crossed all boundaries. At lunchtime, she called Sophia into the living room where she was watching TV. "Come here. I want you to tell me something." Sophia approached, suspicious. "Do you really think my son would be interested in you?" The question caught Sophia off guard. She lowered her head, not answering. "Look at me when I'm talking," Eleanor shouted. Sophia looked up, and Eleanor saw all the pain accumulated there. "You're pathetic," Eleanor continued, each word a stab. "No money, no class, no future. A maid who dreams of Prince Charming." Eleanor got up from the sofa and stood right in front of Sophia. "My son is going to marry Amanda Whitmore, a real woman, not a poor thing like you." Sophia felt something shatter inside her chest. All the humiliations, all the insults, all the sleepless nights exploded at once. "Why do you hate me so much?" she asked in a trembling voice. "What did I do to deserve this?" Eleanor smiled cruelly. "You exist, and that's already too much." In that moment, Sophia understood that it would never end, that Eleanor would never stop, that she was alone in this hell, and Michael had no idea what she was going through. It was the 7th day. Sophia had only slept 2 hours. After spending the night finishing the living room floor for the 3rd time, Eleanor said it was still stained. At 6 in the morning, she went down to the kitchen to make the witch's coffee. As Eleanor had begun to call her in her head, her movements were mechanical, automatic. She no longer cried. It was as if something had died inside her. Eleanor came down promptly at 6:15, as usual. But instead of shouting, she remained strangely quiet. She sat at the table, tugging at the pearl necklace around her neck. It's really hot in here," she murmured, rubbing her forehead. Sophia brought the coffee, watching Eleanor discreetly. Her boss's skin was pale, almost grey, and she was sweating cold despite the frigid air conditioning. "The coffee is too strong," Eleanor complained, but her voice was weak, unlike her usual shout. "Sorry, Mom. I'll make another one." Eleanor rose abruptly from her chair, but staggered. She held onto the table, breathing heavily. "I need air," she said, placing a hand on her chest. Sophia stood in the kitchen doorway, watching. Something was very wrong. Eleanor never showed weakness. Eleanor tried to walk to the living room, but her steps were uneven. She reached the beige leather sofa and sank down heavily. "Margaret!" he shouted, with what little strength he had. "Margaret!" but Margaret had left early for the market. Only Eleanor and Sophia were at home. "I can't breathe," Eleanor gasped, her left hand clutching her chest, her right clutching her arm. Sophia dropped the cup she was carrying. The sound of breaking glass echoed through the house, but she didn't even notice. She ran into the living room. Eleanor was hunched over on the sofa, her face blue, her eyes wide with panic. I can't breathe. Help me?" For the first time in 7 days, Eleanor Harrison was asking for help for Sophia. Sophia knelt in front of her, her hands automatically checking the pulse in Eleanor's neck. It was weak and irregular. "Mrs. Harrison, look at me," Sophia said in a firm, calm voice. "You're having a heart attack." Eleanor tried to speak, but only a strange noise came out. Her eyes rolled back in her head, and she began to faint. "Adi, there's no pulse," she said to herself. Placing her clasped hands in the center of Eleanor's chest, she began cardiac compressions, mentally counting 1, 2, 3. With each compression, she pushed hard, making Eleanor's chest rise and fall. With one hand, he grabbed his cell phone and called 911. "911, what's your emergency?" "I have a 68-year-old woman in cardiac arrest. I'm giving her CPR. I need an ambulance urgently." "What is your name and location, ma'am?" Sophia continued the compressions as she spoke. "I'm Sophia Martinez. I'm at the Harrison Mansion, 1247 Beverly Hills Drive. The ambulance is on its way. Continue the procedure." Sophia tilted Eleanor's head, opened her mouth, and gave 2 mouth-to-mouth breaths. Then she resumed compressions. 28, 29, 30. 2 more breaths. 1, 2, 3. Sweat streamed down Sophia's face, but she didn't stop for a second. Her hands moved with machine-like precision, each compression just the right depth, the perfect rhythm. 5 minutes later, Eleanor took a shallow breath. "Come back with me," Sophia said, checking her pulse again. "That's it. Breathe." When paramedics arrived, they found Sophia kneeling beside Eleanor, continuing compressions with perfect technique. "I'm James, paramedic," said the black man of about 40, kneeling beside Sophia. "What's the situation?" "Cardiac arrest 8 minutes ago. Continuous CPR. Pulse returned weak 2 minutes ago. Patient with a history of hypertension. Medications I don't know which." James looked at Sophia in amazement as he prepared the defibrillator. "Are you a doctor?" "Let's say so," Sophia said. "Wow, that lady was lucky," said Lisa, the second paramedic. 2 more minutes and—" They didn't need to finish the sentence. Everyone knew Eleanor would be dead. "Let's intubate and transport," James said. "Will you come with us? Your information could help the hospital." Sophia looked at Eleanor, already hooked up to the ambulance's heart monitor. The woman who had tortured her for a week was unconscious, depending on her for her life. "I'll get my bag." At the hospital, Sophia accompanied Eleanor to the emergency room door. Dr. Rodriguez, the cardiologist on duty, stopped her. "Are you the one who gave CPR?" "Yes, doctor." "Exceptional work. Saved her life. Are you in the medical field?" "It was nurse specialized in cardiology." Dr. Rodriguez looked at her with respect. "Gee was. It's a long story." "Well, thanks to your story, that woman is still alive." Sophia sat in the waiting room, her hands still shaking from the adrenaline. She looked at her palms, still scarred from the compressions that had saved the life of the woman who hated her. 2 hours later, Dr. Rodriguez came to talk to her. "She is stable. She will be hospitalized for a few days, but the prognosis is good. If it weren't for your immediate intervention, she would have died," Sophia added. It was 2 in the morning when Michael arrived at Cedars Sinai Hospital. Sophia had been in the same waiting room chair for 8 hours, watching the doctors and nurses move about. Michael came running down the hall, his hair a mess, still wearing his traveling clothes. When he saw Sophia, he stopped for a second, breathing heavily. "How is she?" he asked. sitting down next to her. "You're stable. Dr. Rodriguez said it was a close call, but she'll be fine." Michael ran his hands over his face in relief. "I don't know how to thank you, Sophia. If you hadn't been there, anyone would do the same thing." "No," he said, looking directly into her eyes. "Not just anyone would know what to do. The paramedics told me how you saved my mother. They were impressed with your knowledge." Sophia looked away, uncomfortable with the compliments. "Can I see her?" Michael asked. "Of course, she's in the ICU, room 237, but she's sleeping." Michael stood up, but hesitated. You're leaving." "I don't know. I guess I should. But it doesn't feel right to leave her now." Michael smiled sadly. "After how she treated you, you're a better person than she deserves." He went to see his mother, and Sophia remained there, alone with her thoughts. 40 minutes later, Michael returned and sat beside her again. "She's so fragile," he said softly. "I've never seen her like this." They sat in silence for a few minutes, listening to the noise of the hospital, monitors beeping, footsteps in the hallway, doctors' low conversations. "Sophia," Michael said finally, "can I ask you something?" "Of course. How did you know exactly what to do? It seemed like you'd been through this before." Sophia sighed deeply. She knew this conversation would come eventually. "Because I've been there many times." Michael looked at her, confused. "I'm a nurse, Michael. Or rather, I was." "Nurse?" He was surprised. "But you work as a maid." "I know." Sophia turned in her chair to face him. "Do you want to know the truth about who I am? About why I'm cleaning your house instead of saving lives in a hospital?" Michael nodded. "My full name is Sofia Elena Martinez. I graduated with honors from UCLA with a degree in nursing. I completed my cardiology fellowship right here at Cedars, Sinai. For 5 years, I worked in the cardiac intensive care unit. It was my passion." His eyes shone with memory. "I loved every shift, every patient we managed to save. It was the best time of my life." "What happened?" Sophia took a deep breath, the painful memories coming back. 2 years ago, I began noticing irregularities in the hospital. Some patients were not receiving their prescribed medications. Others had their treatments postponed without medical reason. Michael frowned. "At first, I thought they were isolated errors, but then I figured out what was going on." "What?" "The hospital administrator was diverting expensive medications. He resold them to private clinics and left patients with health insurance in the public system without adequate treatment." Sophia's voice grew firmer, angrier. "Michael, these were people who were going to die because of his greed. Elderly people, children, people who trusted the hospital to save them. My God!" "I gathered evidence for months. I photographed documents, recorded conversations, everything. When I was sure, I reported it." "And what happened?" Sophia gave a bitter smile. "The administrator was the medical director's brother-in-law. Within 3 days, I was accused of stealing medicine." Michael was shocked. "But the evidence you had, they mysteriously disappeared from the system. The security cameras failed on the very days I needed them. Witnesses changed their statements." Tears began to stream down Sophia's face. "Within a week, I was fired for cause. My professional license was suspended. My name was blacklisted. This is so unfair. Even worse, they sued me for defamation. I had to sell my house to pay for a lawyer. I lost everything, Michael, everything." Michael felt his heart break. He took Sophia's hand, which was trembling. "That's why you're working as a maid. No hospital will hire me anymore. My name is blacklisted in the system. I need to work with a formal contract to try to clean up my documents. But who's going to give a job to a former nurse fired for theft?" Sophia wiped her tears with the cuff of her blouse. "Your house was the first opportunity that came up. Even knowing how famous your mother was, even knowing it would be humiliating, I needed it. Michael was speechless. He looked at this extraordinary woman who had saved his mother's life, even after a week of humiliation. Sophia, I didn't know. If I knew how she was treating you. You couldn't imagine. Your mother is very clever. She knew exactly how to hurt me where it hurt most. Like this. She called me incompetent, useless, but I knew I had already saved dozens of lives, that I had knowledge she never dreamed of. The irony killed me inside. Sophia looked through the glass toward the ICU. Today, when I saw your mother having the attack, for a second I hesitated. Hesitated? I thought, she hates me, she humiliates me, she treats me like dirt. Why should I save her? Michael held his breath, but then I remembered my oath as a nurse. To protect, promote and restore health, prevent disease and alleviate suffering, no matter who the person is. You're amazing, Sophia. No, I'm not. I'm just a person trying to do what's right, even when everything goes wrong. They fell silent again. Michael looked at Sophia with an admiration she had never seen in anyone's eyes. Can I ask you one more thing? He said. Of course. Why didn't you give up? After all this, why didn't you change fields, start a new life somewhere else? Sophia smiled for the first time in days. Because I still believe I can make a difference. Maybe not as a nurse now, but somehow. People need to know that there is goodness in the world, even when all seems lost. Michael felt something stir in his chest. It wasn't just physical attraction. It was a deep admiration for a woman who had lost everything, yet maintained dignity and hope. My mother was wrong about you, he said softly. You're not just a maid. You're the bravest person I've ever met. It was almost 4 a.m. when Eleanor's monitor started beeping uncontrollably. Michael and Sophia were talking in the waiting room when they heard the rushing in the hallway. Code Blue, ICU 237, Code Blue! Michael jumped to his feet, his face pale with terror. It's her! It's my mother! They rushed to the ICU and saw a crowd of doctors and nurses surrounding Eleanor's bed. Dr. Rodriguez shouted commands as he checked the monitors, blood pressure dropping rapidly. She's going into cardiogenic shock. Michael tried to enter the room, but a nurse stopped him. Please let the team work. Through the glass, they could see Eleanor unconscious, hooked up to even more machines. Her face was blue again. What's going on? Michael asked Dr. Rodriguez desperately as he left the room. Mr. Harrison, your mother has had a second heart attack. Her heart is very weak. We're doing everything we can. But what? Michael shouted. She needs a specialist, someone with more experience in complex cases like this. Michael ran his hands through his hair in despair. Then call someone. Pay whatever it takes. It's the middle of the night, Mr. Harrison. The best cardiologists in town aren't available right now, and Dr. Chen is, Sophia interrupted quietly. Everyone turned to her. How? Asked Dr. Rodriguez. Dr. Robert Chen from UCLA Medical Center. He works on complex cases like this, and I know him. Michael looked at Sophia with desperate hope. Do you think he would come? Now, at dawn, Sophia hesitated. She hadn't spoken to Dr. Chen since she was fired. He had tried to defend her at the time, but he couldn't do anything about the corrupt system. He's a good person. If I explain the situation, please. Michael held Sophia's hands. Please try. I'll pay any price to save my mother. Sophia looked at Eleanor through the glass. The woman who had humiliated her for a whole week was dying. It would be so easy to do nothing. But she took out her cell phone. Dr. Chen, I'm Sophia Martinez. Yes, I know the time. It's an emergency. Michael watched anxiously as Sophia explained the situation. Cedars, Sinai, ICU, cardiogenic shock after heart attack, needs immediate intervention. I know, doctor. Thank you very much. She hung up and looked at Michael. He's coming. He's leaving the house now. Michael closed his eyes in relief. Thank you, Sophia. I don't know how. He said he'll be here in 40 minutes. But he'll need all of your mother's tests and a detailed report. Dr. Rodriguez approached. Miss Martinez, could you help with this? Are you familiar with Dr. Chen's protocol? I know him. I worked with him for 3 years. Sophia spent the next 40 minutes organizing all of Eleanor's medical data, preparing the report Dr. Chen would need, and coordinating with the hospital staff. Michael watched her work. It was as if she had returned to her natural element. Her movements were precise, her voice firm and confident. This was no longer the humiliated maid. She was a competent medical professional. Dr. Chen arrived at 5 in the morning. He was an Asian man in his 50s, with graying hair and a serious but kind appearance. When he saw Sophia, his face lit up. Sophia, good to see you. Dr. Chen, thank you for coming. They hugged briefly, and then Dr. Chen became serious. Show me everything. Sophia led him to the monitors, explaining every technical detail. Dr. Chen listened attentively, asking specific questions. Excellent work on the first responder, he said. If it weren't for your quick intervention, she wouldn't have made it this far. Michael approached. Doctor, I'm Michael Harrison, the patient's son. I can pay any amount. Mr. Harrison, Dr. Chen interrupted him gently. Your bill is already paid. As Dr. Chen looked at Sophia with pride. Sophia Martinez is one of the best cardiac nurses I've ever worked with. If she asked for my help, it's because she's worth helping. Michael looked at Sophia, impressed. Even after everything she'd been through, she still commanded the respect of the city's top doctors. We're going to operate, Dr. Chen said. I need to perform emergency angioplasty. Sophia, could you watch? I no longer have a license to... You can come in as a technical consultant. I'll take responsibility. Sophia looked at Michael, who nodded desperately. Please, Sophia, help save my mother. The procedure then began, and a high voltage was placed in the air, and 2 hours later, Dr. Chen walked out of the operating room, smiling, total success. Your mother is stable. She's going to be fine. Michael nearly collapsed with relief. And it was thanks to Sophia, Dr. Chen continued. She knows the patient's history better than anyone, and her suggestions during surgery were crucial. Michael looked at Sophia with tears in his eyes. You saved my mother twice. We saved it, she corrected. It was a team effort. Dr. Chen approached Sophia. Can I speak to you in private? They walked away, and Dr. Chen spoke softly. Sophia, you are missed in medicine. What happened 2 years ago was an injustice. Doctor, I'm opening a new cardiology clinic. I need a head nurse, someone with your skills and experience. Sophia was speechless. I can help clear your name, get your license back. You shouldn't be wasting your talent. I need to think. Sure, but think about it. The world needs people like you saving lives, not cleaning houses. Michael had heard everything. When Dr. Chen said goodbye, he approached Sophia. Will you accept? I don't know. It's all very fast. His voice cracked with emotion. You are the most amazing person I've ever met. Tears glistened in Sophia's eyes. When this is all over, Michael continued, when my mother is well, will you have dinner with me? Sophia was surprised. Michael, are you sure? After everything that happened, I'm more certain of this than of anything in my life. She smiled shyly. Yes, I accept. Michael smiled for the first time in hours, kissed her forehead gently, and went to see his mother. Eleanor lay in bed, hooked up to a few monitors, but conscious and with color in her face. When she saw her son, her eyes filled with tears. Michael, hi, Mom. How are you feeling? Alive. Thanks to... She stopped, the words catching in her throat. Thanks to Sophia, Michael added. Eleanor closed her eyes, guilt weighing like a stone on her chest. Is she here? Yes. He spent the whole night at the hospital, taking care of you. I need I need to talk to her. Mom, you're still weak. Please, Michael. I need to talk to her now. The next day, Sophia returned to the hospital to visit Eleanor. She had slept for a few hours at home and showered, but she was still emotionally exhausted. He knocked lightly on the door of the private room where Eleanor had been transferred. "Come in," came the faint voice. Sophia walked in slowly. Eleanor was sitting on the bed, her grey hair loose around her shoulders, without makeup, looking much older and more fragile than ever. "Hi, Mrs. Harrison. How are you feeling?" When Eleanor saw her, she began to cry. Not a delicate cry, but deep sobs that came from the depths of her soul. "Sophia, She couldn't speak. Sophia approached the bed, worried. "Are you in pain? Do you want me to call the nurse?" "No." Eleanor gripped Sophia's arm tightly. "Please don't leave." Sophia was confused. She had never seen Eleanor like this. "I won't. It's okay." Eleanor continued to cry, holding Sophia's hand as if it were a lifeline. "I'm a monster," she said between sobs. A terrible monster. "Mrs. Harrison." "No," Eleanor interrupted her. "You need to listen to me. I need to ask your forgiveness." Sophia sat in the chair beside the bed, still holding Eleanor's trembling hand. "I treated you like dirt," Eleanor continued, the words tumbling out. "I humiliated you. I insulted you. I made you feel small. And why?" She looked directly into Sophia's eyes. "Because I was afraid." "Afraid of what?" "Afraid my son would fall in love with you. And he did. I saw it in his eyes, from day one." Eleanor wiped her face with a trembling hand. "My husband truly loved me. I knew he loved me not for my money, not for my social status, but for who I was. When he died, I lost myself. I'm sorry for your loss." "You don't understand." Eleanor shook her head. I was so afraid that Michael would marry for money, that I couldn't see it when a real woman appeared in front of him." Sophia listened in silence. "You," Eleanor squeezed his hand, "you're exactly the kind of woman my husband would want for our son, brave, intelligent, with a good heart." Tears returned to Eleanor's eyes. "And I treated you like a common maid. I called you poor. I humiliated you in front of my friends. Mrs. Harrison, when I was dying on my living room floor," Eleanor interrupted her, "the only person in the world who could save me was you, the person I've mistreated the most." She bent forward, sobbing. "You could have let me die. Any normal person would have. But you saved me." "Why?" Sophia thought for a moment before answering. "Because that's who I am. No matter how I'm treated, I can't stand to see someone suffering without helping." Eleanor cried even harder. "Date, I don't deserve your kindness. I don't deserve you to save me. Everyone deserves a second chance, Mrs. Harrison." Eleanor looked at her through her tears. "Can you forgive me after everything I've done? Can you forgive me?" Sophia was silent for a long moment. She thought of all the days of humiliation, the nights of crying, the pain Eleanor had caused. But he also thought about the fragile, remorseful woman in front of him. "I forgive," he said finally. Eleanor cried with relief. Thank you very much. But I have one condition," Sophia said firmly. Eleanor looked at her, worried. "Which?" "You have to promise that you will never treat any of your household staff like that again. Margaret, the gardeners, whoever. Everyone deserves respect." "I promise. I swear by all that is holy." Eleanor held both of Sophia's hands. "And one more thing. I want you to accept my son's invitation to dinner. And I want you to know that you have my blessing." Sophia was surprised. "Mrs. Harrison." "Call me Eleanor. And please give my son a chance. He truly loves you." Sophia smiled, feeling a huge weight lift off her shoulders. "He already invited me. I accepted." Eleanor smiled through her tears. "Good. So now let me rest. I need to get better soon so I can see you two together." When Sophia left the room, she felt a chapter in her life had closed. The cruel woman who had tortured her had died on that marble floor. The person in the hospital bed was a different person, a person she could forgive. And for the first time since arriving at the Harrison mansion, Sophia believed that maybe it was possible to be happy again. A week later, Eleanor was ready to be discharged. Sophia arrived at the hospital that morning to accompany her home, something she never would have imagined doing before the heart attack. "Ready to go home?" Sophia asked, helping Eleanor out of bed. "Yes, but can I ask you something?" "Of course." Eleanor grabbed Sophia's arm. "Could you have dinner with us tonight? I want you to feel welcome in our home." Sophia smiled. "Actually, Michael and I have plans tonight." Eleanor's eyes sparkled. "Your dinner? And how wonderful. Where will he take you?" "I don't know. He said it's a surprise." Eleanor laughed, a sound Sophia had never heard before, light and genuine. "My son has always been romantic, just like his father." In the car on the way back to Beverly Hills, Eleanor watched Sophia drive. It felt strange to be being cared for by someone she had treated so badly. "Sophia," she said, breaking the silence. "Yes? Have you ever thought about going back to nursing?" Sophia sighed. "Every day. But you know my situation. What if I could help?" Sophia glanced at her quickly before turning her eyes back to the road. "I have influential friends in the healthcare system. People who can reopen your case, clear your name." Sophia stopped at a red light and turned to Eleanor in surprise. "Would you do this for me, after everything?" "Sophia, you gave me a second chance at life, literally. It's the least I can do." Eleanor took her hand. Besides, the world needs nurses like you. It would be selfish to keep that talent to yourself." That afternoon, Sophia was in her small apartment getting ready for the date. She had bought a simple but elegant black dress, a cost of her savings, but it was worth it. When Michael rang the doorbell at 8 sharp, she came downstairs to find him waiting beside a black Mercedes, wearing a navy blue suit that brought out his eyes. "Wow," he said when he saw her. "You look beautiful." Sophia blushed. "Thank you, you look very elegant too." Michael opened the car door for her. "Ready for a special night?" "Ready." The restaurant was Spago, one of the most famous in Beverly Hills. Sophia had never been to such a sophisticated place. The tables had crisp white tablecloths, fresh flowers, and lit candles. "Mr. Harrison," said the maitre d', "and your table is ready." They were shown to an intimate table near the window, overlooking the illuminated city. "This is amazing," Sophia said, looking around. "Not as much as you," Michael replied, making her blush again. Over dinner, they talked about everything: dreams, fears, plans for the future. Michael shared his passion for business, but also his desire to do something that truly mattered. Sophia spoke about her calling to care for people. "And you know what impresses me most about you?" Michael said, taking her hand across the table. "What?" "After everything you've been through, you haven't become bitter. You haven't lost your kindness." Sophia smiled. "My grandmother always said, 'Mija, life can take everything from you, but it can't take away who you are inside.'" Your grandmother was wise. She taught me that true strength isn't in never falling, but in always getting up." Michael shook his hand. "You are the strongest person I know." After dinner, they walked through Beverly Hills, talking under the stars. "Can I confess something?" Michael said, stopping in front of a lit fountain. "Of course. I fell in love with you the first day, when I saw you arranging the flowers." "Same." "Indeed. But it wasn't just because of your beauty, it was because of your dignity. Even though you were treated badly by my mother, you never lost your composure." He approached her. "Sophia Martinez, you have completely changed my life. And you changed mine, Michael Harrison." They kissed there, under the Beverly Hills stars, and Sophia felt like she had finally found her place in the world. The next day, Eleanor called Sophia for a private conversation in her home office. "Sit down," she said, pointing to the comfortable chair in front of the desk. "I have a proposition for you." "What kind of proposal?" Eleanor opened a folder. "I called some friends yesterday. The case against you may be reopened. I have lawyers willing to work for free." Sophia's mouth dropped open. "Eleanor, more than that, Dr. Chen called me today. His clinic needs a head nurse. He said if your license is clean, the job is yours." Tears began to form in Sophia's eyes. "Why are you doing this?" Eleanor got up and went to her. "Because you taught me that the size of our heart is more important than the size of our bank account." She knelt in front of Sophia. "You saved my life, yes, but more than that, you saved my soul. You showed me how to be a better person." Eleanor took Sophia's hands. "Now let me repay you. Let me help you get back to where you belong. What if it goes wrong? It won't work, I promise. I'll use all my influence, all my contacts, all my money if necessary." Sophia leaned over and hugged Eleanor, both of them crying with emotion. "Thank you," Sophia whispered. "Thank you for giving me a second chance. Thank you for giving me a second chance first," Eleanor replied. 3 months later, Sophia was back at Cedars, Sinai, wearing her white lab coat, ID badge, and a radiant smile. Her license had been cleared, the case dismissed, and she was officially back in medicine. Michael showed up at the cardiac ICU at the end of her shift. "Hi, Nurse Martinez," he said, smiling. "Hi, Mr. Harrison. What are you doing here?" "I came to pick up my girlfriend for dinner," Sophia laughed, taking off her lab coat. "And your girlfriend is dead tired but happy. Happy. I saved 3 lives today. I'm back to what I love doing." Michael hugged her. "I'm proud of you. And I'm grateful for everything." As they walked out of the hospital hand in hand, Sophia looked back and smiled. She was back where she belonged. She was back to life. And it had all started with a moment of choice, saving the life of the woman who hated her. Sometimes, she thought, doing what's right is the only choice that really matters. End of story.